Today, we are back to what remains of the polished grounds of a former orphanage. We will be exploring the hillside that separated the main building complex and the playgrounds. Let's see if there are any relics left to tell the history of its past glory. After only a few seconds, we have our first signal. It is in the lower mid-range, which can indicate gold items and the occasional pieces of jewelry. Let's see what it is. It appears to be a silver cross that was once part of a necklace. The item was lying on its edge, so it had a lower reading than usual silver signals. As this was the site of an orphanage run by nuns, this piece would not be out of context to find. But as it seems to be a more elaborate piece, it was more likely to have been lost by one of the nuns. Today, we will concentrate on figuring out the how and why this item is here. The next group of relics will guide us to the answer of what series of events culminated in the loss of this beloved item. And perhaps, we will learn more about this mysterious nun. In the meantime, we will put this back in the ground. It will surprise the next person searching for treasure. Let's continue our search. Hello. My name is Nigel Grockle. I am an archaeologist on holiday here in the States, looking for the past and not so past relics of America. Today, we are returning to this former orphanage on the outskirts of a New England city. This forest and hillside has had many uses. It was the site of an orphanage 100 years ago. Previous to that, it was a farm going all the way back into colonial times. While old relics are hard to come by these days, we shall see if there are any treasures that have been missed by the scores of detectorists that have scoured this landscape over the years. We will try to figure out the story behind the cross we had just unearthed on this hillside. We will call the former owner of the cross, Sister Evelyn. Let's continue our search to see if we can figure out how she lost this relic. Perhaps sledding? Back on the hillside, just a few feet away, we have our next signal. This one is a mid-tone, which can be a copper item, such as a penny. Let's peek under the ground to see what it is. Ah! It's a religious pendant. This one is also silver, which rings up in the proper range when laid out flat. I suspect that this item had been laying on edge, as it gave off a much lower signal. Therefore, it was able to fool the previous detectorists, seeking out higher-toned silver targets. Let's put this pendant back in the ground. It will be there, lying on its edge, waiting for the next treasure hunter to find. These two finds on the hillside are a curious pair, indeed. Losing these items must have been a sad occasion for each person affected. There were not many personal possessions in these institutions. It appears Sister Evelyn was not alone on this hillside. Here we are at our next signal. It is in the lower mid-range and erratic, meaning it is a complex shape, such as copper wire twisted, or perhaps some jewelry. Let's end the speculation and look underground. Ah! It is another cross. This time, it is attached to a chain. That would explain the erratic signal. As you may have noticed, these items are very shallow. It is due to the fact that organic matter tends to not gather much on sloped terrain. Leaves that may fall on the ground would get blown away by the winter winds, eventually settling at the base of the hill. This lack of layering and organic matter build-up keeps targets shallow. Of course, negotiating the hillside while treasure hunting is not an easy task. Let's put this back in its place. Perhaps our next signal will shed more light on the events that placed all of these clues in this hillside. Two crosses and a pendant. What happened here? The variations as to how these relics were lost can seem overwhelming. one can start to eliminate some of the more outlandish events. For example, the sisters were probably not kickboxing, leaping, or throwing excess jewelry down the hill. Thus, the more innocent pastime of sledding becomes a leading contender. But why would these reserved nuns indulge in sledding? There has to be a pragmatic explanation. Another 15 feet away, and we have our next signal. It is a higher mid-tone, which is usually a silver item. Let's take a peek. Ah, it is yet another cross. It appears to be silver. It was lying flat, so the signal was more authentic. This is most curious. Let's put this back in the ground, so the next person can delight in this mystery. Keeping the orphanage going was an expensive endeavor. Besides a home for orphans, this was also a full-scale farm. Farming would offset operational costs. But the nuns were always looking for new ways to earn money. There was an annual fair that enabled them to showcase their goods and raise money as well. These fairs would have competitions with prize money for the winners. So, not only could the nuns show off the cattle and sell pies, there was an additional opportunity to earn money. Perhaps the nuns were training for the fair? A few feet away, the next signal emerges. It's another higher mid-tone. I wonder what it could be? Ah, of course. It's another cross. This one is made of copper. Another great clue. Let's put this one back and continue on our search. I feel like we are moments away from solving this mystery. We barely have time to swing the detector, and we have our next signal. This one is very similar to the others. Let's unearth the object. Ah. It's a penny. It is a wheat penny. This is a great clue, as it can place the other items at a particular time frame. We'll put this right back in the ground. Let's continue our search. Wow, not even a swing, and we have our next signal. It is in the mid-lower tone range, reserved for the occasional nickel. Let's take a look. Ah. It is a shotgun shell. And just like that, our puzzle comes together. Did you guess what happened here? It is a very strange incident, indeed. Let's place this clue back in the ground. It will help the next person solve the mystery of the crosses on the hillside. These last few clues have given the perspective needed to create the picture. So, what happened here? It was a cold winter night, back in the early 1920s. Sister Evelyn and her fellow nuns were practicing a spectacular stunt that they would perform at the local fair. They were hoping to win one of the large cash prizes offered. This would give them the extra money needed to run the orphanage. The snow had provided the cushion necessary to get the technical parts down without being injured. The trick was called the Hail Mary maneuver. This entailed the nuns leaving the top of the hill on individual sleds. They would each perform a synchronized trick, then they would all link back together to form a long toboggan to finish their run. Just as the nuns left the top of the hill, a shot rang out in the nearby woods. This caused the nuns to lose concentration and crash in various ways. Some lost their crosses. Without skipping a beat, Sister Evelyn, who had been watching from the top of the hill, pulled out a shotgun from her cloak and fired into the air. As it turns out, she had been raised on a farm herself and had been no stranger to defending her land. During this move, she had lost the lucky penny she had carried with her. But what was all that racket about? In the nearby field, a group of deer hunters had also been practicing. They were working on some precision shooting to win the same prize at the carnival. When they heard the shot ring out nearby, their instincts kicked in, and they fled into the woods. But what happened at the fair? It turns out, the deer hunters had won the competition several years in a row. But that year, the Nun spectacle won out over the precision shooting. While the deer were defeated, they vowed to come back with a spectacular stunt of their own. And they did. But that's another story. And there you have it. We have once more followed the breadcrumbs to reveal another fascinating incident in this incredible forest. We shall come back again to reveal more of the history that occurred in these parts. Thank you for joining me on this journey. We shall see you next time.